What up, everybody? Welcome to the Sober Experience. Hope you guys are doing well. We're going to set this thing off right.
Joseph Kennedy was a good man, I'm sure, to Rose and the children. But he was a bootlegger of illegal liquor. And he transferred the money from illegality to make his children go straight and become senators and presidents. But you don't talk about his corrupt beginnings. But a brother can't parlay no drugs. He's a drug addict forever. He can do time and he's that forever. Milking and the other boy that swindle Americans out of billions of dollars. They can come out of jail after doing 5 years and get right on back in. Nobody say nothing. Richard Nixon could be damn near impeached. Quit. The only president in American history to leave the job in disgrace, but he could be rehabilitated. But my brothers and my sisters who run afoul of your corrupt laws, there's no rehabilitation for them. There's no redemption for them. Once a thief, always a thief. Once a criminal, always a criminal.
That's the type of energy we're on today. The freaking minister. I'm all about that. I'm all about that life, man. That's like revolutionary talk. And I'm not talking about storming the castle, storming the whatever. Talking about storming your bias, storming your hatred for one another. All of these things that they plant these little seeds so that way we don't band together, you know? It's like more prevalent now than ever. You know, you see like everything in the news and they're fucking, you know, it's always something, bro. It's always fucking something. You know, it's always something. Something to be like, you know, they like to feed you this thing where, oh, we'll build it up and then we'll break it down. And, you know, it's so sad. It's sad, you know, because there's a lot of problems and there's a lot of love, and love will solve all of those problems. You know, I was talking last night was, you know, we had a great anniversary at Greenwood, blah, blah, blah. Shout out Sam, 1 year, my grilled cheese buddy. And it was nice. Anyway, I was hanging out in somebody's house afterwards, and I was talking with another fellow. And we were just talking about the hypocrisy of, like, how the whole thing works, you know, how to keep you in despair, you know, to keep you in despair, to keep you, I don't want to say oppressed. It is oppression. I'm not going to lie. It is oppression. There are people who are at the top who are just feeding this narrative to everybody and everything that there's no hope for you. You just have to subscribe to this system, and you got to march one foot in front of the other, and you got to But meanwhile, they can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, they can do literally whatever they want. Literally, you know. I always talk about all the insider trading stuff that happens with all these Congress people, or how many, you know, when I was listening to RFK Jr., he's talking about like these huge factories that are just, you know, they were throwing sludge and all kind of shit into the rivers and polluting us, and everybody's saying like, oh, I think there was like an interview where Ed Koch was like, hey, listen, it's either going to go in the air or in the water. Where do you want it to go? I'm like, what the fuck kind of brain is that? Like, how much did somebody give you for you to say that at the detriment of other people? And then just that type of cycle, that's what we're on. That's the type of energy that we're on, you know. But with the with internet and Twitter and Facebook and whatever, it's just there's so much. It's like a dumpster fire, you know. I'm like a member of some of these like neighborhood Facebook groups, and the level of like negativity is fucking crazy. I'm like, yo, how do you walk around with that kind of energy? How do you live like that? Like, you know, I mean, I'm not preaching from the mountaintop. I was just benign. Listen, everybody, until I got sober and cleaned up my life. Listen, guess what? Guess who else was a junkie and a criminal? You know, you're listening to him. And that's the truth, you know, but there's redemption for me, and it came out of love from other people. And I didn't have to pay anything. I just had to invest some of my time and then reciprocate it back to everybody else. And then we feel like, you know, not like this is some kind of cult, but this is a good way for fucking people to live, man. We have a lot of answers on how we conduct ourselves, you know, which is, you know, we're all just trying to help each other out as best we can, and nobody's trying to hurt anybody. It doesn't mean people don't get hurt, but you don't do it on purpose, you know? Where, like, I feel like, you know, we're operating, you know, inside the matrix, and we're like with Neo and his crew, and we're trying to like recruit other people, say, hey, listen, man, you know, yeah. I was watching this beautiful interview with Tucker and Ice Cube. And I'm not like a huge fan of Tucker. I love Ice Cube. Ice Cube's a motherfucking rock star. Him and Ice-T, they're like fucking rebels, bro. They're like fucking rebels. You know? They just happen to do hip-hop. Well, Ice-T, he did Body Count. And that Cop Killer song was amazing. You know, it was a fucking amazing song when I was a kid, man. They took that shit off everywhere because, God forbid, you make a song about, you know, killing cops that are corrupt and fucked up and taking other people's life, you know, whether figuratively or reality. You know, they have that much authority that they could do whatever they want. And sometimes, you know, eventually the bubble's got to burst, right? So what I'm saying is that, like, I'm not for killing police officers, but I understand and identify with that level of hopelessness. You know, when you're just like, dude, you're just trying to do your thing and people don't give a fuck. And they're just like, they're the ones in control. It's like the bank, right? It's funny because you know, similar to, you know, I remember when, we'll keep it in this space. I remember when Orange Boy was running against Crooked Hillary, and what did Bill Burr say? It was the dope versus the devil. That was the truth. It was like a circus, man. It was fucking crazy. And I remember when Trump was like, when one of these Fox News dweebs was like pressing him on the stage, you know, and these guys are all like fucking dweebs, man. All these guys that work at those news organizations, they're just puppets and dweebs, and he didn't want to comply, so they were like trying to push him over the edge. Who knows what they're trying to do now? You know, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous, actually. It's ridiculous. You know, just whoever, anyway. So they were like, oh, you know, you had your companies, they went bankrupt. And he's like, yeah, 4 times, you know, I took advantage of the chapter laws so I can protect my company and my staff and myself and blah, 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 my family. Just like every other businessman, you know, that is at that level. You know, that's at that level. And the guy was like pressing. He was like, no. And he was like, yeah, because I myself have never gone bankrupt. He's like, yeah, you know. He says, no. And then the guy was like, yeah, no, that's your line. That's your famous line. But, you know, in 2000, whatever, you know, your, you know, Trump Resorts and Casino in Atlantic City, you know, went bankrupt. And he's like, and lenders to your company estimated lost like $1 billion and 1,100 people were laid off, you know? And he was just like, yeah, like the way the guy was describing it his response was perfect. He says, first things first, let me tell you about the lenders. These lenders are not babies. These lenders are killers. They're not like the sweet mom and pop people just handing me, $40 out of their last savings account. They're killers. They're killers. And I was like, wow, this guy's up there telling the truth. Because if any of you have ever been late on a mortgage payment or on a credit card payment, you're late one day, maybe a transaction that doesn't go through. Bro, I used to work at a bank and people would get overdraft fees charged to their account if you went negative $1. Sometimes you buy something and then the merchant would take like maybe 2 days for it to go through, which whatever. And then so you think you have more money than you do. And then like you go under by less than $1 or $1. Bro, you would get hit with a $32 fucking fee. A $32 fee. And me as a banker at that time, I had the power to reverse it, and I would just reverse it. I was like, hey, look, you come in here, you have a sit down, you went under by like $1, a couple dollars. Yeah, I hit a button and it goes away. Because we had the power to do that. But it was just like they're relentless in just keeping us in line that way, and then wanting us to believe in the whole that they're our friends. John Stewart said it best. He's like what did he say? He says when we bail out the banks, it's like we're saving them or something. But when a mom needs a bailout, then it's a fucking entitlement or whatever, or it's welfare. Meanwhile, we've been giving this whole system of thieves, welfare forever. And what do? They're like, hey, listen, we got to keep these people fighting with each other, so they can't be spreading the love, man. They can't be doing it. So like every day they just drip into your brain, this guy's the enemy, that guy's the enemy. When the minister's talking about my brother and my sister, he's talking about all of us. That's what I hear. He's talking about all of us. We're not part of their game. And their game is to just keep us busy while they're just milking everything. I was telling my middle kid, I might have told this story already, that I was like, yo, man, you gotta pay with things for cash, whatever, because they always want like electronic payments. And I'm like, listen, no. I said, you go to the hardware store, you buy something, you pay with cash. That guy at the hardware store goes and gets a barbershop. He goes to get a haircut at the barbershop. He pays with cash. That barber goes to the grocery store, to the bodega. He buys an egg sandwich, a couple of things. He pays with cash. And guess what? That money gets moved around the community. You start swiping and clicking and whatever. Dog, the bank is taking 3 cents, 5 cents, 3 cents, 7 cents, 11 cents until the dollar is fucking gone. Until it's gone. That's their job. It's so crazy. And then they charge you for having your money in the bank. Meanwhile, if I go to the bank, I'm like, hey, listen, man, I have, my wedding is coming up in a couple of weeks. I got to pull out 20 grand. They're going to be like, whoa, I don't know. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean you don't know? I know what they're doing. My money's on deposit and they're trading my money all over the fucking planet and using it for leverage. So that way, somebody in an office can get a $40 million bonus. That I know for a fact. But when I go in there and I knock on the fucking door and say, listen, I have this much money in here and I need this much right now. All of a sudden they need like an authorization, approval, something. It's so fucking crazy, man. It's so crazy. So the conversation I was having with my homegirl, I don't want to say her name. I don't know if she's there. I don't know if she's a she or a they. It doesn't matter. I love her. I love them, they, whatever. I love everybody, all right? I don't care what your pronouns are. I care what they are, but I'm unaffected by you having different ones. It doesn't matter to me. Anyway, so we were talking about this thing because, like all these companies, it's all like false flagging they make pretend like they give a shit about people, but they don't give a shit about anybody. So it's just like, hey, listen, they were having a discussion about this, going back to Rogan and Patrick Ben-David, right? One second. They were having a discussion about the ESG score, and ESG score is basically what it is. It's like a social credit score. If you don't know, if you already know and whatever, and you probably know more than me, that's fine. But we were talking about it yesterday. It's basically like a social credit score for companies. So they want to make sure, okay, are you doing anything for the environment? Are you doing anything for social issues? Are you doing, like, what kind of, it's like a social credit score. And they're using this score in order, so like when a company, let's say my company, I don't have a big company, right? But let's say there's a moving company. The moving company has 75 people, right? Everybody's on payroll. Guy's making $20 million a year, whatever. Not the guy, the company. It costs a lot of money, right? If he wants to go and buy another warehouse for storage and trucks or whatever, he's like, okay, well, I'm not just going to go pay for it out of cash, because that's not how things go. So I'm going to go and borrow some money from a bank, and whatever they're going to buy, this is all in theory, but this is kind of like how the thing works. So if they're going to go do that, the bank is going to be like, well, what's your ESG score? People in charge of the heavy lifting, of the heavy money, the big money sacks. Like, what's your ESG score? Which is basically, they're like, hey, are you like a social justice warrior? Do you have BLM everywhere? Do you have, all of these other social things? I guess, are you donating to the environment? Like, they're not asking about like the blockchain of how your business is actually created, because if they were, they'd be like, hey, listen, man, Apple, I'm sure, has a great ESG score. No disrespect to them, but there's 8-year-old kids making those fucking iPads. So both things can be true. That's what we were saying. So, but it was like so crazy. And the example that we used, because I saw this, and we were talking about like how fake they are. So now these companies are literally hiring people and conducting business as a kind of like a charade in order to secure more money, to make more money. It's like they have to go groveling, I guess, if you want to say. Anyway, here was the point. The point is like, okay, are people really trying to do good, or are they just putting on a fucking show? So this guy wrote on Twitter, and I shared it with my homie, and I said, it says, removing the Aunt Jemima branding, but keeping the high fructose corn syrup with the brown dye and sodium whatever chemical is a pretty stellar example of how to make hollow symbolic gestures while keeping in place a system that is actually killing people. But they say, like, it's pretty stellar how liberals love to make liberals love to make hollow symbolic gestures while keeping in place a system that's actually killing people. And that was funny. And because it's very fucking true. It's very true. Like, if they really cared about black people, it's not liberals, listen, if like these super right wingers were like really, really, really pro-life, I don't know. Or they wouldn't be turning away refugees, maybe. Or maybe, maybe it wouldn't be so many wars. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what whatever hypocrisy that they have on their side is. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Like with the fucking, yeah, I can go on for days with, come on. We had like George Bush Jr., and Orange Boy. So we can just find out all the hypocrisy on that level. So what I'm saying is that, like, it's all basically a charade. And I get angry when I feel myself being, like, I got sucked into that whirlwind where I'm like, dude, they're just like talking to me like I'm stupid, and I hate that. I'm like very offended by that. That's why, like, I like, I don't know, the the Republican guy's name. I don't want to butcher it. The East Indian fellow who's running, Roshni or Rashi or something, whatever his name is. I heard him a few times in different clips and this and that. You know, nobody's all the way right, all the way wrong. People like, oh, RFK Jr. He's an anti-vaxxer and he's a this and he's a that. You know, and you know, Ice Cube all of a sudden was a super right winger because he was willing to go talk to Trump, right? Meanwhile, he said that when he produced the movie, The Barbershop, Oprah had the whole cast on her show but wouldn't invite him. He wasn't allowed to come, which is so crazy because that was such a long time ago. But that's the thing. So they discourage the discourse because it might be possible for us to make a deal and say, okay, I'm going to give up a little bit. You're going to give up a little bit. And that's how it's going to go. And then we'll be able to work together. That's why, like, you know, people like AOC or Bernie or whatever, they sound ludicrous to some people. You know, they do. They sound crazy. But you have to, in order to get what is good for, I guess, everybody, you got to shoot way over the mark, and then the other side shoots way over the mark, and then you meet in the middle. You know, then you meet in the middle. You know, the healthcare system is crazy. Just the quality of life is crazy for some people. I'm very grateful, man, that I was able to independently move out of that, you know, junkie criminal life into a prosperous, profitable, loving existence. And I didn't do it on my own. You know, and then I find all these other people who are trying to do the same thing. Why is it the junkies and the losers are the only ones willing to work together for the common good, which is for us to stay sober and stay clean one day at a time. That's why initially we're willing to work together. And then we find out that, like, you know, if we let go of all those biases, you know, look how effective we operate together. You know, even if you don't have to let them all the way go, but you can suspend your own beliefs for the greater good. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to be converted. You know, I'm not like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not fully converted on anything. You know, there were some things that I believed wholeheartedly a year ago that maybe I don't believe anymore. And vice versa. Things that I believed that I didn't believe, and now I do believe. You know, because I'm constantly evolving in an effort to get closer to other people so that way they can help me be my best self. And when I'm doing that, I'm actually fucking winning. I'm becoming my best self. You know, am I willing to listen to, you know, Donald Trump or Louis Farrakhan or who are the other crazies? I love the minister, though. His message is really good. And Trump is not wrong on everything. So sorry. He's fucking not. You know, you can point out a lot of things where he's like a crazy person. And they're like, oh, grab him by the pussy and blah, blah, blah. And that was a crazy thing that he said. It was crazy that it was caught on whatever. It was caught on tape and he said it out. What was crazy was the audacity for him to say it out loud. Whether or not he does it or doesn't do it, I don't know. You know, I can't even get involved in that. But what I can say is if it's really, really offensive to anybody, and if you are partners or married to, or if you have a boyfriend, I dare you to look through his phone and see if you find a group chat with him and his male friends. See what's under that rock. You know, and then say, oh my God, I can't believe my husband would be making jokes about this kind of stuff or saying these kinds of things. You know, I have a tendency with my friends to say very stupid things. I call them stupid. It's like, if me and my friends, if we make jokes about anybody, we're actually joking about how crazy the stereotype is or the prejudice is, like we're making like some people really think it's so crazy that XYZ, whatever it is, and that's the truth, it's because, boys we're fucking stupid. And that's how we joke with each other. We bust each other's balls, we bust each other's balls. Like I remember on Father's Day, it was such a funny thing. I saw like a meme with Arnold, and Arnold's one of my heroes, he's one of my heroes, man. I'm so sorry if you don't like him. And you should definitely see his doc. But like he said, what was it? It was something like, oh, your father doesn't smoke cigars? Well, happy Mother's Day to your father then. and I was fucking dying. I was dying, man. I was like, that's so funny. Like, it's so funny. It doesn't have to be taken so literal and so serious, Not every man has to smoke a cigar. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. And those of us who smoke them, and I smoke them, man, and I love them. I don't know if it makes me more or less of a man or whatever. It's somebody else's friggin' perception of me, that maybe they get to let go of. I remember it was funny. Oh my God, I have to stop fucking saying that. I'm so sorry. Anyway, one time, an example of this, we were in the water doing polar bear stuff, not butt stuff, but polar bear stuff. And I was hanging with this girl in the water who was doing like this art thing at my daughter's school, and my daughter was participating. It was great. It was fantastic. I'm like, this girl's so talented. Anyway, so we're talking about my homeboy who I love. Anyway, his name's Frank the Tank, right? He's been on the show. You should Google it. You should look up not Google. You should look up his episode and really listen to he's got an amazing story. Anyway, but she was like, and this is like somebody who's like in the art community and like all this other stuff. And I'm not saying this in a very disparaging way, but I'm just saying this is what happened. Basically, my expectation, and I was like a little bit, not defensive, but whatever. Anyway, so they were eating at Brooklyn Roots, and he was there. I guess she knows the guy too. And she was like, I'm hanging out with Frank, and I don't, he doesn't look like the type of guy who does like hot yoga and meditates and all this other stuff. Because, Frank the Tank, he looks like a tank, So not all my friends look the same, but, he's a big guy and he's a teddy bear. Listen, I'm sure if he got a hold of you, it would be curtains, right? Tattoos everywhere. He's a fucking iron worker. He was in the military, but he's sober a long time. But, they were, in her mind, she was just like, oh, a guy like that who has that look about him or whatever. She was like prejudiced, like, and maybe she didn't want to, maybe it wasn't prejudice. Is that a word, prejudice? But she was just like, I can't believe somebody, that he doesn't look like the type of guy that would do hot yoga. I'm like, bro, and I felt like saying like, I didn't say, hey, listen. I was like, dude, I did hot yoga for a very long time, for many years. Bikram before even the bad stuff came out about him. And now it's just hot yoga, whatever. But I spend the time in the sauna. I meditate on a very, 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 very regular basis. And, he's one of my boys, and I'm not an iron worker. Yeah. Like, anybody can do anything. Anybody can do anything. So it was just funny to me that, like, she was shocked by that. And I was just like, okay. And, yeah, for me, I'm just like, hey, look, you know what? Everybody reads. Some people read more than others. But the more that we... again, what do I say? Like, suspend our judgment of each other. We realize how much good we can do when we work together. It's like the best thing ever. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yeah, It's just listening to all this, because an election year is coming. Part of the market is crashing. You know, I got all kind of stuff going on. You know, yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm getting freaking married. Man, how many days am I away? Dude, today's August 18th. So, no, today's August 8th. Yeah, because I'm a couple days late. 25, man. Dude, I am 17 days away from adding another, taking away a last name on the mailbox, which is nice. Right now there's 5 different ones. We're going to be removing one, which is nice. There's going to be a Mrs. And without me spending a lot of time with other people helping me, by me letting go of my judgment, them letting go of their judgment, I would have never, ever, ever been capable of sustaining a relationship that has been growing for this long. It's not possible, because I showed up with all the answers 10 years ago, and we were living together for 6 months, and she was already ready to leave. In a couple of months, she was already ready, asking her sister if there was an apartment left in the building that we just moved her out of. You know? She introduced me to myself. That's what she did. And it was good enough to get, like, in the game, but it wasn't, but there's no way I could have maintained anything. Not without causing a lot of damage, emotional and mental. So I thought I was open-minded, but I wasn't. And the good thing is that I knew where to go to continuously get help. And that's what I try and do now, is I try and give that back to other people. Where I say, hey, man, I know what it's like when the money gets low and it's you and your lady, or you and your husband, you know, or you and your partner, whatever. I used to get offended by the word partner, but it's grown on me a little bit. I'm like, fuck partner, you know. But no, I guess a partner, you got to learn how to partner with each other, you know. And I know what it's like when the money gets low and you're stressed out about that kind of stuff. Because, again, going back to the beginning, because of how the system treats us, you know, and then what do? We turn on our partner. That's what happens. All of a sudden, we're getting a little bit short with each other because we're stressed out about how we're going to make these payments and how we're going to, you know, is the bank going to give us more time? You know, is unemployment going to come through? Is there going to be another fucking lockdown? Like all these other things, right? And then, like, your partner's there and they're not trying to hurt you on purpose, but they're at where they're at and you're at where you are. And you start blaming each other. Yeah, man. That was me. And I had to go through that. So that way when I see other people going through that, I can't tell them. I was talking to somebody who I love very much the other day, and I was like, dude, I cannot, my friend, I cannot tell you what to do with your home, with your relation. I can't tell you. But I can tell you that what I learned is that everything has to be on the table, including staying, including leaving. Everything has to be on the table. And if it's related to this thing where, like, you know, when the money gets fucked up or there's a stressful situation, typically it's fine. Look, a lot of times if you can write a check and solve a problem, it's not really a problem. I am so sorry, right? But, you know, when that kind of stuff happens and, you know, for me, I have the personality that's where all of my fears and everything will start. They used to stem from that, you know, because if the bag is okay, it doesn't have to be flush, but if you're okay, that's one less thing to worry about, where there'll be less agitation. And, you know, so, you know, and I said, look, I can't tell you where to stay or to leave or whatever, but I can tell you if your behavior towards your partner, or if your two behaviors towards each other, if that is the root, is that, and not like infidelity and, I wanted kids and you don't want kids, like all these other things that are really like bad things, which other people really work through, and it can be done. But if it's like a financial thing that causes that level of insecurity where you're just naturally drawn to start like keeping score, you need to learn how to not do that, whether it's this person or the next person or the person after, because that's a skill that you're going to need to have, which is like, we used to call it in the criminal days. When you have a bad day out in the street, you can't come home and take it out on your kids or on your people, And because I went through that, and I was lucky enough and fortunate enough that my partner was my fiance, she's 17 days, gonna be my wife. She had to work on that shit too, and we both did it. That nobody's doing it on purpose. We were just doing it. And every person comes with their limitations, and every person comes with their strengths. And that's the truth. I used to always say that, I used to say that I'm better at life than Emily, and she's a better human than me. Well, guess what? Like, she's in school for sonogram shit, and she's fucking going balls to the wall. And she's depressed. She's putting the pressure on herself, and I'm here to support her. And she's going to come out the other end. And that's like the first major big swing for herself that she's doing. The quote unquote life thing. I mean, she's a huge part of my company. It's our company. A huge part. And she's a whole partner in it, like everything. But, it took me this long to become a better human, and it's taken her this long to put her balls on the table and go for it. And it has to be admired, And we did it not so much against our will, but we did it because of what was at stake. And that was the, possibility or probability of losing each other in that mud that I just described. So maybe she's trying to secure an even bigger bag, and I'm trying to secure a bigger heart, So anyway, subscribe, share the shows with your friends. I know I keep promising to get more interviews. I've been playing footsie with some people. I got to get them in here, and I got to make the time and all of that other stuff. And it's a beautiful life. It really is. It's a beautiful life. Name of the show is The Sober Experience. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere. And I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.